Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video. So, I just watched the first episode of the new Godzilla show, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and I thought I would talk about it and just share my thoughts on the first episode. I've been a fan of the Monsterverse for a few years now. I watched the 2014 Godzilla movie shortly after it came out, and then a few years after that was when I really started getting into the whole Monsterverse. So I'm a relatively new fan, but I still enjoy the series and I'm trying my best to keep up with it. So when I first heard they were making a show about Godzilla, I was pretty excited. I really enjoyed Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong, and I heard they were making a new movie, like a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, but I don't know what's going on with that, so I was getting a little bit tired of waiting for the new movie, so when I heard they were making a show, I was pretty hyped. And after watching the first episode, I was definitely not let down. So I'll start by giving a short summary of what the show is about and what happened in the episode. So it's obviously about the whole monsters and the Monsterverse thing and the Titans, and the show covers various time periods, like some that are recent and some that are like a while ago, all showing different characters and their encounters with the Titans all over the world. The opening appeared to be on Skull Island. I don't know if that happened during the time in the Skull Island movie or some other time, but it showed the guy from the Skull Island movie in a scene that I don't remember happening in that movie, so I think it was like a bonus scene, but I'm not sure. But the opening was pretty interesting because it started with the whole monster fight, so the show got me into it pretty much from the start. The rest of the episode follows this girl named Kate as she searches for her lost father and finds out about the whole monster thing in Monarch, which is the organization. It's kind of like the SCP Foundation, just with the Titans. And so the episode mostly follows her. I was thinking this as I went into it too, that with a lot of the movies, it's kind of been a trend lately that the humans just aren't really interesting and they're kind of boring. I felt that way with pretty much all three of the movies I saw and Skull Island, so when I went into this, I was like, didn't really know what to expect. Like, I didn't know if the characters would be super interesting or if they would just be boring, but these characters actually weren't too bad. The human character plotline wasn't too boring, so yeah, show definitely has that going for it, and I think it's actually better that it's the show because it can expand more on characters with more time, because obviously the movies aren't always long enough to expand on all of its human characters, so I think turning the Godzilla series into a show is actually a pretty good idea for the human character situation. And the girl's character was okay. I don't really know a whole lot about her yet because obviously it's only the first episode, but she didn't start off too bad. Like, I'm kind of interested in finding out about the whole thing with her father and Monarch and following her throughout the show, so that was a thing that I liked, that I never really felt about any of the humans in a Godzilla story before, at least none of the ones that I've seen. The episode also follows some people from the 1960s, which it's revealed later on that the one woman is the girl Kate's great-grandmother, and so it kind of shows like what they were up to during that time with hunting down monsters. So I'll get into that later because that was kind of cool too. So the main story is that the girl Kate goes to Japan to this address where she had the keys to that her father lived, and when she gets there she discovers that there's a whole other family living there, a mother and a son, and she figures out that her father had an entire other family that was just living there and they had no idea about, so she's obviously not too happy about that. And then the mother and son who are there are like, who are you? And they figure out that the guy had a whole other family also, so that was the main human plot in the story. So sorry if I'm pausing a lot. I'm doing this unscripted, unlike how I did my other videos, so I'm kind of just saying stuff as it comes to me, so don't mind that. So anyway, the son and the daughter of the dad kind of argue a little bit. They're like, well, how do you know that it wasn't with your mother that my dad was cheating with? And they kind of go back and forth with that for a while, and I'm like, well, you could check who's older. I'm sure you could get a pretty good idea if you check and see your ages. Like, I know that's not, like, necessarily proof that he was with any of the women longer, but, I mean, it might give you a general idea. But we're also shown in flashbacks that the girl was on the bridge at the time in the Godzilla 2014 movie when the people were shooting at Godzilla and he kind of destroys the bridge. She was on the bridge in one of the buses and she managed to escape the bus, but a lot of the kids that were in the bus with her ended up dying because the bus fell off the bridge and all the destruction. And so yeah, it's obvious that that's a very traumatic event for her. And so the girl and the guy end up kind of searching about, like, for stuff about their dad to find out who he was and what he was doing, and they find this bag in his office that was actually showed in the beginning. It was a Monarch bag, and their dad found it while he was fishing, and then they found it years later in his office, and so they bring it to the one guy's friend that I think is like a previous girlfriend. It's obvious they were in a relationship before and things are kind of weird between them, but she's a tech expert, and so they have her kind of like decrypt some of the files that they found in the bag, and they end up discovering that it's like this company called Monarch, which I was talking about in the beginning. It's kind of like people that research these titans all over the world, and so they find out about that, and the girl, Kate, actually remembers that she saw people in, like, Monarch uniforms the day that Godzilla was at the Golden Gate Bridge, and so she kind of puts two and two together, and she wants to know, like, who they are and why they were there and what they do. And also throughout the episode, it would switch back to the people from 1959, which is the girl's great-grandma, and it would show her and these other guys looking for, I think it was like the nest of one of the mutos, and they found it, and they were trying to, like, take a DNA sample from one of the eggs. Oh yeah, and the girl's grandma and great-grandpa, because the other man she was with is Kate's dad's dad, and so they are searching for the Muto nest, and they end up finding it, and it's like a pit in the ground, because they use, like, these bombs or something to blow a hole in the ground and uncover the nest, and so they go down there to try and get, like, a sample from the eggs of the Mutos, and the eggs end up hatching and all the baby Mutos come out, which they look like little centipedes, and then they attack them, and Kate's great-grandma ends up dying, which they said earlier in the episode that her dad's mom died when he was little, and obviously this is how. So there was that plotline also. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, just because, in case you want to check it out for yourself. But overall, the episode was pretty interesting, and probably the most I've ever been into the human story in a Godzilla movie. So that was definitely something that I enjoyed about it. And obviously I enjoyed the monsters. Godzilla makes a cameo for maybe about a minute in the flashbacks that Kate has, but you don't actually see him in present day in this episode, so he's obviously going to appear sometime, but it was cool seeing him, even if it was just for a few seconds. And obviously a lot more monsters are going to appear, as I saw in the trailer, so I'm excited for that. I'm not sure what ones will appear, if they'll bring back ones from the other movies or add some new ones, but regardless, I'm pretty hyped to see what they do. I'm hoping King Ghidorah might make an appearance, because he's one of my favorite monsters from the movies, but I don't know if he'll appear or not. And then as for where I think the show is going to go in the future, it's obviously going to follow Kate and her half-brother and the girl May as they search for and discover more things about Monarch. I'm sure that's what's going to happen, and then I'm sure it will follow characters from other time periods as well as they hunt down the monsters. Not really sure what all the plot, where all the plot's gonna go, but hopefully we'll see some good monster fights and have more monsters introduced. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Monarch Legacy of Monsters Episode 1. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen as the show goes on? That's about all I have to say. See ya.